I'm really excited to be talking to you today. In light of the election results, we've taken a great topic today on our Friday session of Think Out Loud, and it's all about how to be an ally post-election, becoming the leader you wish you had. I'm going to introduce you to some of my colleagues and friends who've joined me here in the studio today, who are actually going to guide us through this conversation. We're going to look at the parts of our society, parts of our community that have been targeted, marginalized. And even though they're not going to be representing their communities as a whole, we don't want to give them that responsibility. They're going to be sharing insights and voices of what people are saying, how people are thinking and how people are feeling. What do you feel is the undertone, feeling, expression and emotion of your friends, family and communities? What are you hearing? What are you sensing? And what are you feeling?
I think the emotions, at least from the ones that I've experienced myself and those who have been, from people who have told me how they feel, really run the gamut. But at the core, it's really, gutted. I'm feeling very angry, upset. And, initially the first reaction was fear.
I hear a lot, especially because I do have acquaintances who voted for Trump, about how, voting for Trump isn't about racism. I voted for him because of economics. I voted for him for national security. But at the same time, it is those people. It's those people who do not recognize what he means to people of color, to people who are Muslim, to people who are LGBTQ. And when you put your needs ahead of a lot of the people in this country and like their safety, that is a decision that you have to cope with. You cannot hide behind your economics. You cannot hide behind national security because you have to think about the rest of America, and you didn't. And so if you voted for Trump, you have to reckon with the fact that you're complicit with the racism.
The ultimate feeling now amongst myself and other people in the community is that there's this real sense of uncertainty. Like, is Trump going to turn the clock back on all of that? Is he going to sort of overturn all of those things that all of those strides that have been made towards equality?
In his election, he was saying he wanted to ban an entire religion, which I don't even know how is possible, from entering the United States. He is referencing to the Muslims who are doctors, who are teachers, who are lawyers, who are our politicians, who are part of our current administration and have always been part of our administrations, and little kids. He's talking about children. And so when you really take into the fact that this man is the president of the United States, it leaves you fearful, because then it asks you, is someone going to come knocking on my door the next day and say, hey, I know you were born in this country, but you have to go. And that leaves many Muslim Americans asking, well, where? When we have to fear our safety, we really need to question not just the politics of this country, but why so many people support that rhetoric, and just how in the world did we come here? And I think that's the biggest question that most people need to be asking themselves nowadays.
What do you think are the best ways for people to work with, like you said, you were saying actually don't fight as it, but for it?
The Black community has a long history of their relentless activism across the years. And that certainly isn't stopping now. We've seen it, somewhat at its peak in modern history within the last few years with Black Lives Matter. And now this is a whole new, Wednesday morning was a new day for everybody. And that one, our own individual struggles are still there, but now we also have a collective struggle and fight, and that we all have to band together to help attack that and make sure that our voices are combined, that we're listening to each other, that we're learning from each other, because we can't stand divided.
We need to acknowledge each other, because if we become selfish, if I'm only thinking about, me as a heterosexual Muslim hijab-wearing woman, and I continue to make my box smaller and smaller, then what is this for?
There's this strong impulse to have sort of a knee-jerk reaction to everything. Yeah. I mean, even again on Wednesday morning, I just felt like screaming. I was like, I can't believe that this is the new reality. But I think I have to remind myself, and I think everyone needs to remind themselves, is that this is an opportunity for thoughtful discourse.
What are you seeing as key ways of educating the future generations? We're talking about how this is affecting the future.
We really just have to encourage each other to stand together. And we can do that, both with our stories, but also going out on the ground, like talking to people face to face. We can donate to charities that would support the causes that we feel are so important.
It's about going further and learning and practicing empathy, because empathy isn't just something that you feel, you can practice it. And if you don't know how to practice it, I think Jay can help you out. But but it is about that. It's about practicing empathy and just, you know, doing those acts of kindness, putting yourself in people's shoes. And it sounds very cliche. There are practical ways of doing that. And if you can pass it on to your children, if you can pass that on to your teens, and if you can practice it yourself, that will go a much longer and more impactful and permanent way than any legislation that you can put in the next 4 years.
Now is the time to really make your presence known. You know, this isn't sort of, this shouldn't be an impetus to suddenly go back in the closet, let's say. Like, you know, you need to stand up for yourself more than ever. And, you know, just, you know, get that work done.
Have an uncomfortable dinner conversation. Just ask more than how your day went. Ask someone what they feel. Ask someone if they met somebody different that doesn't look like them. Because if we continue to build our own bubbles, then they're just never going to pop. There was also a case out in Tennessee where parents wanted to ban the teachings of Islam and Muslims in a public school system. We can't have things like that happen, because then when we, first of all, banning education or banning learning about something within itself is beyond problematic. But then when that person who, for example, has never learned anything about a Muslim, has never met a Muslim, and then sees me like on the subway, like what's that reaction going to be? It's either going to be hateful, it's going to be fearful, it's going to be discomfort. And all three of those emotions are going to have negative consequences, not just on me for my safety as an individual, but as a society as a whole. So go to your local schools, ask them, look at the curriculums, ask yourself, what are you actually learning? How can you apply this? Your local colleges, your universities. The education at the most basic level is more than just Googling information. The internet can be a great place, but the internet can also be a disaster. There is so much misinformation out there, and I think that was one of the biggest things with this election, with everybody just tweeting everything and Facebooking everything. There was just so much room for misinformation.